If you did what we did, watching the trailer for The Get Down, which is coming out tomorrow on Netflix, you would do anything to have Baz Luhrmann on your show. Well, you don't have a show. We do, and we have Baz Luhrmann.
Well, hey, well, I'm just here because you got a beautiful miniature schnauzer.
Oh, hi, Max.
Hey, Max.
We've been fans of your work for so many years.
Really?
Because your work stands out. It's so different.
Elvis.
Going all the way back to Romeo and Juliet and Moulin Rouge.
The Great Gatsby.
The Great Gatsby.
Love that.
Thank you.
Some of those,
Wow, thank you.
Some of those beautiful, beautiful pieces of art that ended up on film. And, of course, one of the biggest songs we've ever played in the 20-year history of the show is Sunscreen.
Wow, really? That's an amazing... Such a big part of my life, such a long time ago. I'm amazed by that.
And we played it when it was new. That's how long this show has been on the air.
Well, what year did it say? Because when I made it, Elvis, you know, I made it to practice music producing with a guy called Anton Monstead, and there was this thing called the World Wide Web that had just come out.
Right.
So how long ago it was. He said, look, there's this great speech on the World Wide Web, and it was at that time we thought it was from someone else. Anyway, the idea was to record it and make a record out of it. But I think it was like 96. When was the first time?
The class of 1999 was addressed. It was 1999.
Well, do you know what? When I made it, we thought it was a charity record. And I thought, well, what if they want it next year? So I got the actor who was playing the voice of Kirk Vonnegut to do it was 97, I think, and then we did 99, and I did it right up to 2000, and the guy I was working with went, well, no one will want to hear it after 2000.
Well,
so I'd run out of years.
We still play it every year.
We play it every year. We did cut off, ladies and gentlemen, the class of 1999. We took that off.
Great.
We play it every year, and people listening to our show call up in tears.
Yeah.
Because it really is a powerful message in that song.
Yes.
But look at all you do.
You know, Elvis, I got to say one thing. I am going to, I haven't said this to anyone, but once I've done with this work, I'm going to maybe do a re-release of it. And I was thinking about getting different artists just to interpret it, you know, because
that would be awesome.
It's supposed to go on for so long, you know.
And it will world premiere on our show.
You heard it here first.
So did you.
Even Baz Luhrmann heard it here first.
Going now. See, like Elvis has entrapped me in a few
You know what?
things.
This is what I find one of the many things I find so fascinating about you is your work. Not only is it the visual, but it's also the music. It's what we're listening to, going all the way back and maybe beyond Sunscreen. But in The Get Down, it will be a visually stimulating thing to watch, but at the same time, the music is one of the stars of the show because it's about music.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's a show about music told through music. And more than anything I've ever worked on, it's been the greatest collaboration of my life in the sense that I've worked with the founding fathers of hip-hop, from, you know, Flash to Herc to Rahiem from the Furious Five, but also in terms of, you know, the Puerto Rican community from up in the Bronx, you know, Willie Estrada. And then I've worked with, you know, icons like Nas and, you know, on the soundtrack itself. It's a very long list. I mean, Miguel, you know, great collaboration. And that's the big thrill for me.
Well, take us back. Take us back to how the story was formed. What exactly is The Get Down?
Really, The Get Down is an answer to a question that popped in my head. I was with a friend having dinner in Paris. I got to be careful telling this story because someone said, you should catch up with that boring friend again, because I was with a friend. I was a little bit bored, and I looked over his shoulder in this cafe in Paris, and I saw like a picture by, I now realize, Jamel Shabazz, and it was two kids who were obviously into hip-hop, and I couldn't tell when. And what popped into my mind was this question: how did a completely new creative idea get born at a time when it was so difficult? So I just tried to answer the question, and 10 years later, I had no idea I would be making a show or collaborating with all of the different artists that I've collaborated with, and that there would even be a thing called Netflix. I mean, it didn't even exist then.
There was no chance Netflix would have ever existed back then, not in our minds. You know, something we've noticed about you, Baz, is you love to go to periods in your work. Is it because it's so easier to define a visual and a feeling after the fact, so you can go back to it? I mean, you look at The Great Gatsby, you look at Moulin Rouge, you look at, The Get Down. I mean, would you ever do a modern day story about what's going on today?
I often think about that. I was thinking
because it's more difficult to define today than yesterday.
I was set in a radio station with a sort of grand, DJ and
with a gold microphone.
Gold microphone.
Oh, please.
No, but I would love to do that, and I want to do that. But it's an interesting question you bring up, Elvis, because I try not to self-analyze too much, because that can get you into a hole. But I do observe at my advanced age that, see, I came from an extremely tiny country town. Like when people bet me on that, they always lose, because I say 7, they think 1,000. It was like 7 houses, right?
Wow.
Very tiny. And I think I created my own worlds there with my brothers. I was always doing this, but I think I've become always interested in the other worlds. And my whole life's been about visiting and getting lost in other worlds. And, like with Gatsby, the research I did on Gatsby, I kind of lived it. And I'd rather live the research and never make the film. With The Get Down, I mean, my great experiences is to be in the Bronx, working with the entire Bronx community, all the different friends and creative associations I've made. I mean, I'd rather just live it and never actually make the work. So I think it's just, I'm attracted to getting lost in other people's worlds. It wasn't just about it's really not about, people think of hip-hop as being the 80s, but as Flash says, everyone wants to know about the cake, which is the 80s, but no one was interested in the recipe, which is, how did it come about? And when I went into that world, I realized it was a time that disco was reigning, and that this little thing called punk had just started to kind of whisper up downtown.
If you're wondering how these things were born, they were born because they were the answer to the people trying to find fun, basically, and find a way to express themselves during that very, very dark time in New York
I think
City.
that's exactly what it is. What I have found out, and what has been so, for me, fulfilling, although incredibly exhaustive, and that is that the answer to that question is, in a time when there was so little, the young tend to go to the imagination and to do whatever they can, because they weren't doing it to be wealthy or rich or to be particularly recognized. It's just when I see my name up on that train, mama, says one of the characters in a documentary I watched, I am somebody. I exist. And the city was saying, you don't exist. And they're going, yes, we do. So they found their own way of self-expression, and it turns into what we know as hip-hop today.
How does one be creative? I know that's a very general question.
Yeah, it's a really...
How do you do it?
Honestly, Elvis, I just assume everybody is. And I think that every act can be creative. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. The question is it, it's self-revelation. I mean, it's coming to terms with, well, that's kind of what I do. And whatever you do and it comes to you fairly easily, you never respect it. You never think it's important. And I always felt that. I always went like, oh, but I'd rather do something else. But I couldn't help but want to either, tell a story or express an idea. And so that kind of drives me. That comes from just naturally. The other part of it's the hard bit, is the discipline to actually, not give up, I think, and apply yourself in a really, for all of the perceived glamour of it, it's really just a lot of labor. I haven't had a weekend off.
No, poor guy.
Let's not go there. I might burst into tears. But it does require, it's not a job. It's a complete life experience. And
So
you said
that's
you
it.
lose your friends and everything
Yeah.
from binge watching or whatever. I just haven't been able to have that part of my life for 2 years. But I've had, in lieu of it, I've had these new and deep and really beautiful relationships that are creative relationships. And we've all had to serve something greater than ourselves, and that's just the show. It's the show. So I don't know if that answers the question.
You know what? I don't think when you're as creative as Baz Luhrmann, you can answer the question.
Yeah.
But I think you did answer the question in that you feel that everyone is that creative. So you're just basically showing them.
I think you've got to find, life's about sort of the journey of self-revelation of what is it that I actually have that I do well, and how can I not control it, but how can I kind of curate that? It's, you can kind of guide it.
Here's what I think we all have to agree to do. We all have to binge it or just watch it as fast as you can. The Get Down. Late tonight, 3 a.m., it will be released, the first 12 episodes. I am so excited. I don't think I've been this excited to see anything in a long time.
Well, I hope you dig it.
The music. Now, I know this song that we're about to play, Telepathy,
Sure.
is already available on iTunes. How much of the soundtrack is
The
already
album
available?
is out today, and there's the album. Then there's a deluxe album which has all the cast music on it, as well. And then we also released needle drop albums. So a lot of the classics, there's classic music, there's new music, there's interpreted music. So pretty much you can get all of the music today.
Sounds like
iTunes.
a project they just threw together.
Oh, yeah. No
With
plan.
not a lot of thought.
Yeah, I did it all last night. Yeah, I mean, get down. What can I do?
So I suggest you go buy the soundtrack, listen to as much of that as you can to get ready for the drop of the Get Down tonight on Netflix. Baz Luhrmann, what an honor to meet you. Thank you for coming to see us.
And what
Baz
a great
Luhrmann.
team. What a great team.
Yeah, I'm also-
Let's all hang out. Let's eat Chinese.
When and if you come
Picture
up,
and sweats.
when and if you do come up with a new sunscreen, let us know.
Sure.
Let's make a big thing.
Yeah, let's come and do it here. Sure.
All right, excellent. Baz Luhrmann.